Can you hear me, Brandy? Can you hear me, Brandy? Can you hear me, Brandy? Can you hear me, Brandy?
Can you hear me? You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
May has long championed the recognition of women who powered America's wartime industries, as she poignantly put it. Though we weren't in the trenches, I believe the Rosies deserve recognition. Everything the soldiers needed, we made it. Planes, jeeps, ships. Sorry. Of the National Rosie Riveter Day on March 21st, and she played a key role in securing the Congressional Gold Medal for all Rosies, a lasting tribute to their courage.
Can you hear me, Brandy? I can't hear anything.
In a rural Mexican village by her grandparents, she was deeply shaped by the values of humanity, service, and resilience. After 9/11, she enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, serving nearly a decade in security forces, where she trained airmen in tactical readiness, public safety, and military protocols. She completed her service at Tinker Air Force Base and remained in Oklahoma, drawn to the strength and the spirit of its people. PETA holds degrees in criminal justice, medical laboratory technology, and biology, along with a degree in microbiology from the University of Oklahoma. She worked at a high-level clinical and research laboratories specializing in nucleic acid extraction, viral diagnostics, and organ transplant safety. Applying significant scientific precision to protect lives, and diagnosed with PTSD and ADHD, PETA transformed her healing journey into a mission of advocacy. She now serves as administrator of the Oklahoma Women Veterans Program at ODVA, where she leads statewide initiatives in mentorship, community groups, trauma-informed outreach, and veteran equity. A speaker and panelist on mental health, PTSD, MST, and stigma, she uses her lived experience to promote trauma responsive care, and empower others to heal. She is pursuing her master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and previously served as the board of Manos. Okay, Manos. Okay, sorry, can't say that. Free Clinic. PETA is also the creator of the Freedom Logic, a platform to help veterans, especially women, decondition from military life and reconnect with personal power. As a newsletter developer and editor, she served too. She amplifies women veteran stories through digital storytelling and outreach. Whether building community programs or crafting veteran-centered policy solutions or collaborating with other agencies, PETA's work reflects her commitment to advocacy, authenticity, and access. She finds joy in nature, music, and helping others rediscover their voice, their stories, and their strength. Our next moderator, yes. Woo, woo. Yes, ma'am. All right, our next moderator is our one and only program director, Amelia Peacock, sitting right over there. She is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. Grew up in the Gulf Coast region of Texas. An athlete from a young age, she thrived on competition and challenges, a mindset that ultimately led her to choose the United States Marine Corps, the most rigorous branch. That's her word. But when they get hurt, need a Band-Aid to call their corpsman.
Yes, love them. God bless our corpsmen.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Despite her father's advice to explore all options. Serving as correction specialist in Okinawa, Japan, and Charleston, South Carolina, Amelia distinguished herself through the relentless dedication and indomitable spirit, earning numerous military awards and commendations. After 4 transformative years in the United States Marine Corps, she pursued her passion for understanding human behavior, earning her BS in psychology from Old Dominion University. Before joining Grace After Fire, Amelia built a diverse skill set across multiple fields, including talent acquisition, customer relations, financial services, consulting, resource coordination, and research. Each experience refining her ability to navigate complex systems and advocate effectively. She discovered Grace After Fire through a fateful encounter that felt nothing short of providence. Volunteering as a facilitator for Tabletop Color Me Camo peer-to-peer groups, she quickly realized that she had found her community. The spring retreat solidified this connection, immersing her in a mission that reignited her sense of purpose. The camaraderie, trust, and unwavering support among women veterans transformed her passion into an enduring commitment. Now program director at Grace After Fire, Amelia leads wellness programs, peer-to-peer support initiatives, and transitional services, ensuring women veterans and their families have the tools to thrive. A staunch advocate for veterans, she works tirelessly to amplify their voices and address systematic challenges. Recognized for her expertise in peer support and community engagement, Amelia has been invited to speak at events and conferences, sharing insights drawn from her lived experience among fellow brothers and sisters in arms. Through these platforms, she fosters understanding and strengths and bonds of shared service. Since March 1922, Amelia has been the Texas State Certified Mental Health Peer Specialist, further reinforcing her ability to support veterans in navigating personal and systematic challenges. This certification underscores her commitment to ensuring peer-led advocacy and mental health awareness remain integral in her work. Amelia's skills span leadership development, team building, public speaking, event planning, program implementation, and advocacy. Her approach is strategic, values-driven, and rooted in deep belief that collaborative efforts can create lasting impact. Beyond her professional life, Amelia finds solace and exhilaration in the outdoors. Whether trekking through scenic landscapes, reflecting near water, or embracing her passion, of course, for skeet shooting. She thrives in environments that demand focus and skill. She also finds freedom behind the wheel, fueling her passion for racing and tactical driving, a testament to her love for discipline, precision, and controlled adrenaline. Her commitment to service and empowerment makes her driving force. Advocacy, peer support, and leadership, she remains steadfast in her mission to uplift, empower, and champion the voices of those who have served. Thank you so much. All right. With that, I'm not going to bore you anymore with my reading skills. We are going to kick off with our amazing panel. Again, if you have a question, please come up to the front and
Yep.
sit next to Brandy
Yep.
so that Miss May can also hear.
Yep, whoever's asking, just sit down here, and that way you'll be on the screen with her, asking her the question. Yeah, I'm gonna move you. No, they're gonna sit right here. I'm just gonna sit. Yep, so you're gonna sit down and you just would ask for the question. Just make sure you speak up so she can.
You got it.
Absolutely. You go.
Yeah, I
Miss May, can you hear? Is this on?
Nope.
Nope. How do you?
the other one's on.
Test. Miss May, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Perfect. That is awesome. So I'm Amelia. We spoke last night, Miss May. And so thank you so very much for your time with us today. And so as our keynote speaker, we would really just love to open the floor to you to learn about your experience, your insight, your knowledge, and just all the amazing things that you've been able to accomplish in your life. And so with that, to kind of start our conversation off, I'd like to ask you, as a woman who stepped into leadership during World War II and continued to lead through advocacy, how did you sense or how did your sense of identity evolve over the decades? How do you see that evolution today in our women's world?
Well, let me say something about this. I heard you mention National Rosie Riveter Day, which is March 21st. Also, that's my birthday, and that's when I'll be 100. That's what I'm shooting for, 100.
You got a lot of happy birthdays coming from this room.
You don't know. When people invite me to different programs and for next year, I said, "Are you kidding? At this age, let's talk about next week."
Well, we're so grateful to have you with us today.
I'm sorry, I missed your point, but you asked me. I knew that you are interested in them. I don't understand. I wasn't military. I just worked for building airplanes and what have you during World War II. So I don't understand your issues like I would my own. I didn't have to fight like the military or anything like that. I just went out there and fought anybody or everybody who, recognized Rosies. Not just Rosies, but women. And now I just go on promoting you women and the young girls. I just think it's outstanding what you're doing with your lives. You have a tougher job than I had because you have to deal with the military. And it's not you have to, you can't just do what you want to do like I did. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes the way I was going, but I fought hard. And I finally, I think I worked 40 or 50 years to achieve what I wanted. And that was I was very instrumental in getting the National Rosie Riveter Day and our Congressional Gold Medal. And what an honor that was. After all those years, it made me so proud. I feel like I'm at the end of the line, that I've achieved what I've worked so hard for. And, I think that's so important to you women. No matter where or how you have to fight, just keep fighting. You never know who you're going to meet who will help you along the way.
I love that. Thank you so much, because that's so very true. And so let me ask you, as you made that choice to go and start working with Boeing during World War II, like what prompted you, or what was a moment or an item that really led you to want to fight for women's rights, for Rosies, for nurses in Vietnam, for any of women's rights? What really kind of sparked that fire inside of you?
Well, I was so young and naive when I went to Boeing. I was 17 years old, right out of school. We thought we'd go to Boeing for the summer. We thought it'd be fun. It would be a lark. But the way it turned out, my sister and I and our girlfriend, we just had the best time. Not just, we didn't really know what we were getting into at that age. But as we worked, we realized how important our job was and what we were doing. And we just worked through World War II with such pride. It wasn't our job or my job, it was our job. And, so it wasn't unusual for us to really dig in and do what was necessary. At Boeing, I built B-17 and B-29 bombers. I also worked during the Korean War for a while. But it's just it gives you such pride to know that what you're doing for your country. I know, like I said, it was a man's world up until 1941. It was a man's world. They didn't know how capable us American women are. We certainly are showing them, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am. And I guess that kind of leads right into the next question is like when the odds were against you, when you started to realize that it was really a man's world and the odds were against you, or when maybe some of your progress felt slow when you were fighting for the Rosie the Riveter Day, when you were working with your Congress people and your government officials, when you were doing all of those things, what kept you going? What gave you the strength to keep pushing forward?
Oh, I'm not sure. I heard the last part of that. Go ahead. Repeat.
What gave you strength? Like what kind of, again, kept you going? What kept you fighting? What allowed you to continue to move when it got really, really hard?
Well, sometimes I think it's your personality, but if something sticks in your craw, you can't rest till you try to do something about it. After the war, my children were born right after the war. They're baby boomers. And so naturally, I didn't have any reason. I shouldn't say reason. I didn't have. I had other things to worry about, raising my family, what have you, than to worry about how they treat the women after the war. After the World War II, the men came home to parades and flying flags, and Rosie just came home with the pink slip. I always thought it was so unfair. But my children, I think, I've worked for about 40 or 50 years. All of a sudden, I had enough. I just said, they've got to recognize what us women did. There's no mention of what the women did. Only everything was the men, which they deserved it. I don't mean taking that away from men at all. But they had benefits when they came home. They had the GI Bill. They had mortgage, wonderful mortgage rates, things like that. Rosie had nothing. The poor, like the women that lost their sons or the widows, when the war was over, Boeing just closed the door and they were out on the street. It just wasn't fair because they had to find jobs, and the men were coming home taking all their jobs back, which was fair. I'm not taking that away from the men, but the women were in the street now, and I thought this is so unfair that they don't recognize us women. So we just started. I had no idea where I was going with it, none at all. I like to write letters. I have a poison pen. The kids will call it my poison pen. But I just sit down and write to anybody and everybody, hoping that they'd listen. Well, some did, some didn't. But, you just can't stop. I just kept going until a newspaper picked up on my story. And it just went viral. And this is what you need. You need somebody timing is so important. I said to the editor, why, after all these years, did you finally do my story? She says, every day we have different articles coming across our desk. And that day we needed a story like yours. And it went viral. And so these are the things. Don't give up. That's what I tell the young people. And you ladies too, just don't give up, because you never know when you're going to meet the right person or the right thing, or luck plays a good role in it. But there's no substitution for determination. And I just keep going. I never gave up. I give up for a while and I go right back at it.
I love that because that's so true. Things get hard, and sometimes you do have to take a break, and then you can get up and get back at it. So thank you so much. That is, gosh, I got goosebumps. May. Thank you.
I read, I know camaraderie means an awful lot to all organizations, but I've experienced organizations where we don't give social affairs. I never belonged to an organization, like Rosie Group. I didn't know anybody when I moved east. But you get together and you hash these things over. When the meeting's done, you haven't achieved anything. But if you're an individual who wants to do things, you go out on your own. I don't mean that you don't honor the rest of your group, but I'll use this expression, somebody's got to take the bull by the horn. And that's what I did. And of course, as time goes on, you get wonderful people that join in with you and help you. You can't do these things alone. And I've just been so fortunate that I've been able to meet the right people, the right senators, the right congressmen, congresswomen. That one, California, Jackie Spears from California, every time I went to Washington, she would see me. And I just, things like that, you never forget it. They're the people who help you reach your goal, whatever your goal is. And if it's worthwhile goal, and I'm sure you women, I know from a family experience that you women have a fight on your hand. And knowing Brandy, I love Brandy, by the way. Anyway, you have fight. You all have a different fight on your hands for different reasons. But try to get. The most important of all is try to get with your local, your senator, your congressman. Once they hear your story, and if they believe in you, they'll fight for you. I know Senator Casey. I thanked him for what he has done for us, and he said, "Well, May, you did all the work." And this is true. You've got to do the work, and then they'll listen to you. And I think that's very important. Well, one person I've never met, and I want to meet her in the worst way, and I'm sure she would really support you, is Tammy Duckworth. I don't know if you know her, but I know she's a good supporter of veterans, and look at what the price she paid for her life, with her life.
Yes, ma'am. No, absolutely. Thank you so very much, May. And I think that exactly what you're sharing right now, it kind of, I'm going to ask you this, but I think you've dropped some huge truth bombs and knowledge in this event today. But I guess, what message would you share with a young woman that might be exiting the military? And it's very similar to what you just shared with your experience. You said you came home, you didn't have any friends in your area. Maybe it's that you come home from another state and then all of a sudden you're in a brand new place like you were, and you have to go back to life. And so what if a woman might be unsure of her place or maybe even her power? What advice would you share with someone who might be unsure of what that actually looks like for her?
I'm not sure I followed that. I'm hard of hearing. I guess that Randy told you. I'm not sure I followed that question.
What kind of advice, if you have a woman standing in front of you that is unsure of where she's at in life, unsure of where she's wanting to go next, and things have been kind of turned upside down for her, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give her in advocating for herself?
Oh, I hate giving advice because I can, like I said, I've worked very, very, very hard. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I've also been very lucky. As far as advice, my most important advice is be yourself. And if you've got that drive, I said the good Lord gave us creativity. And that is the most valuable thing. If we can just use whatever it is that we really like to do. If we like something, we're going to go full speed ahead to do it. And I think that's so important. And like you ladies, I look at you ladies and I see what you've achieved and what you need to achieve and how unfair it is well, I'm not sure what you women have experienced, but I've talked to wives of the military men. The men are serving and the women are home trying to raise the children and have to deal with all the problems. And what I noticed when the men come home, close their ears, men, if you're listening. But anyway, when the men come home now, they want to take over where they left off. And sometimes the women do it much better. For instance, just paying bills, things like that. And this creates a lot of trouble. I mean, you have to be a strong person to survive, I think, when you're so separated. And I remember my one granddaughter's husband, he lost a leg over there. And he was telling about how the men get so, what do you call it, attached at that time. And when they come home, they've got to learn how to live again with the family. And that's not easy. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, ma'am, you did. And I'm going to give me just one moment. I'd like to ask, is there any questions from anyone in the room that would like to ask Ms. May a question? I mean, this is your one shot to speak to an original. What would you like to ask? Any additional last closing questions or anything that anyone would like to share?
Our favorite memory. Ask her to continue with her educational program.
Would you like to come up and ask for that? Come up and ask, please.
just have a seat right here.
And if you would, please,
No, just go ahead, you have it for me.
And then-
if you would, please just say your name and branch.
Morning, ma'am. My name is Kathleen Ursula Gretzner. I'm a U.S. Marine.
Hoorah.
And yeah, hoorah. And I'm a veteran service officer for Burnett County, Texas. So the reason I joined the Marine Corps was to go to education. I told them right off the bat, I'm entering y'all so I can go to college because my daddy couldn't pay for it. So my question to you is, you were 17 years of age. After you finished with working at the factory, did you go back to school? Did you continue an educational program?
Well, we went right out of school when we went to Boeing, the factory. Well, a lot of men resented the women being in there because, that was don't forget it was still a man's world. And they didn't realize how capable women were. And I think they were jealousy more than anything else. But the men used to play tricks on women. I didn't experience any disrespect, but I worked with the man from Iowa. I was a riveter now, but he was a riveter also. But often they'd ask us to work together when they had a special job. He wanted to experience riveter, and the two of us got along really well. He made me a much better riveter had it not been for that experience. But he used to send me to the tool crib for something stupid, and I didn't know the difference. I'd go to the crib and ask for it. They'd laugh their heads off. I'd feel like a fool. But you get used to that after a while. One day they sent me for a tool that was very important, and I wouldn't go. I thought they're not going to make a fool of me again. And that was one day when we really needed that tool. I always think of that. But that was the way of life. I know a lot of women experience men being them. There was an inspector that kept after a woman. Women didn't have any rights at that time. And he couldn't smoke. He used to spit on her equipment. One day he spit on her. And she just been working. And we all just stopped and looked, and we thought she's going to get fired. But they didn't. They didn't clean up the mess, and I don't know what happened after that, but he never spit on anybody's equipment again. But the men thought that was funny at the time. But because he was an inspector, he had little clout. He could do, everybody was little. He could make you take out all your rivets if you didn't go along with him, things like that. And so that was the way of life at the beginning, but that got better as time went on. We just worked together so well, all of us. It wasn't ever any man, woman, or child just dropped everything to save our country. And then we became very patriotic. And I never regret the days I spent working at Boeing. In fact, a newspaper article, I love the B-17, and a newspaper article called My Love Affair with My B-17. I like that.
I thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Would you like to come up, please? We've got one more question, May. She's coming up now.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, Mr. Rich, and have a seat.
Hi, May, ma'am. How are you today?
Hi. You got cute dimples.
Thank you. My name is Liz Herrera. I'm not a veteran. I'm a yoga teacher. And I just wanted to ask you.
Are you a teacher?
A yoga teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I do a lot of Zooms with you.
Yoga? Have you ever tried doing yoga?
No, I haven't, but I should do something because my knee's giving out. At my age, things are starting to give out. I said, I'm losing my knee, but I still got my mouth.
Well, we could do a chair yoga class over Zoom anytime you'd like to. But I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite memory as being a riveter?
I'll say that again. I didn't.
What is your favorite or fondest memory from being a riveter?
I still didn't understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry. What is your favorite memory when you were a riveter?
Oh, I have so many. They must be all good. I was a young teenager at the time, and I'd do work all day, but while I was working, I kept thinking, what am I going to wear to the dance tonight? Because even though the war was on, the city of Seattle had beautiful affairs for the veterans and the young people. And it was very well managed and all. There was no monkey business going on and all. But I said, we used to love that. And we was good for the sailors, and I met them. I'm saying sailors because I married one. It's just I never regret any of my time at Boeing. And Boeing teaches you a lot of them. I think like Seattle, one of the things I remember so very well, they said to the women, just because you're doing a man's job doesn't mean that we don't want you to remain feminine. If you want to wear makeup or fingernail polish, things like that, feel free to do so. And I thought that was real nice because the men seem to think because we were in there, we were all tough. And we're not. We're still women. We're still gentle women. We're still strong women. I just don't think they knew how to handle a strong woman.
Well, I like that red lipstick you have on. Have a beautiful day.
Ask her about when they launched your cap and mask into space.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I know that she did ask your fondest memory, but didn't you just have your cap and mask launched in the International Space Station?
What was that, Brandy?
Tell them about when you had your cap and mask launched into space.
I couldn't hear that, Brandy.
Tell them about when you launched your cap and your mask into space.
Oh, about with Boeing. I'm sorry. I have Brandy's voice is up and doesn't connect with my hearing aids for some reason or other. Oh, and that was so wonderful. I do stems and I do Zooms, and of course we do podcasts with Brandy. But on one of the STEM meetings I had, it was with our Senator Casey, our Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, and the CEO of Boeing, David Calhoun. And we had 8 schools and 100 students. And when we were speaking, David Calhoun, the big Mahafa of Boeing, said, May, when we're done, stay on the air, we have a surprise for you. He said, we want to take your bandanas and your face mask and put them on our Rosie the Rocketeer, the mannequin that's going to go up to the International Space Station. And they did that. It was so wonderful. When they opened the capsule, when it was up in space, I could even read what I wrote on that bandana. And when they returned to Earth, the Boeing invited me to Washington. They'd framed them, and they given back to me along with the coin that had gone up to the International Space Station. And now there's talk. I know it's just talk now, but they're talking about putting them in the Smithsonian. That would be nice. And then, during the pandemic, I made 6,000 Rosie Riveter face masks. And they went all over our country. Other countries asked me too, but I said, no, this is just for our country. And I said, we got the most beautiful letters from the people from all over our country. I got boxes of letters, and people started sending me the material to make it. I couldn't have done that all alone. I couldn't have financed the whole thing by myself. They sent me everything I needed, the material, the postage, the elastic, the thread. But the most valuable of all was the letters I received, even from a woman who was trapped in the towers when 9/11 happened. I got the most beautiful letter from her. And I said, I tears to my eyes, I'll tell you.
Well, May, we very much appreciate your time. But I have one more person that has something to say to you very quickly.
Miss May, this is Tana Plesher, President and CEO of Grace After Fire. We are so grateful to have you here today, first and foremost. And thank you for everything that you did. You possibly worked with my grandmother, who was also a riveter up in North Dakota. But I wanted to also, in this moment, make an additional connection. So I'm not sure what astronauts were on yours, most likely. Sunny Williams was somewhere along in there. She is also a Navy veteran, and she is the one that was stuck on the space station for so long. And she is also a member of Grace After Fire. So I am super excited, and she's in Houston. So I'm super excited to go back and have this discussion with her and hear all of her insights. And I will certainly get back to you, and maybe we can further that connection.
Oh, thank you. One of my greatest achievements was this last April 10th when I asked me to accept the Congressional Gold Medal for the millions of American women that worked during World War II. You know, it felt like I finally reached my goal in life. But I haven't quit. I'm still out there everywhere. I just promote you women and young girls, especially young girls. They don't know their potential. And they need an outside voice sometimes to make them realize how capable they are. And this week, I just got the cutest program back from a girl that I imagine she was probably in the 5th or 6th grade. She did research on me. And she made a regular little, like a poster set with all the things she learned about me. No, that's so rewarding. You think that you reach some young girls, especially. I mean, you ladies, you know pretty much where you want to go, what you want. You just have to work harder. Like I said, you military women have got a different thing to fight for than I had. I didn't have to raise money or anything like that, and I didn't have anybody just tell me I couldn't do it. I said, well, like I said, I made a lot of mistakes. I did do it. I didn't quit. And I think that's the most important thing for you ladies. I know you got issues. But Brandy's a good example of that. I got a brother-in-law from my granddaughter's husband that has almost the same issue as Brandy. And I said, these are important things that you fight for. It's not fair. I don't know what's fair in the world anymore. So just do what you're doing and just keep fighting.
Absolutely. We're stronger together. Stronger together. Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you so much, Ms. Cryer, and thank you for attending. I believe we're now going to go to our panelist questions. So thank you so much once again, and please reach out.
Thank you.
Thanks, May.